So I've had a bunch of questions about a proper shoulder warm-up, which is actually kind of interesting because most climbers don't ever do warm-ups.
I ain't got no time.
Okay, so the basic reason why we should warm up is really to increase like action potential and nerve conduction velocity and all that good fancy stuff. Really, it's just so that our brain is talking better with our muscles when we go to do the exercise of choice. It also helps increase like the warmth of the muscle, the elasticity of it, all that good stuff. But the big thing that we want to focus on for climbing is not allowing ourselves to just use our shoulders, and rather we want to do this nice little warm-up so that we can use our shoulder, the rotator cuff muscles, with our scapular stability muscles. So we're going to talk about 4 exercises, one of them kind of being the mecca that if you're just too lazy and don't want to do anything, you can at least do this one. And then we're going to look at how we can apply this and why this actually matters on the wall.
It's not about the destination. No.
So if you're like me and you love warming up, then you always keep a nice little TheraBand in your back pocket, right? Ready to be used as needed. So the mecca, the first one, the most important one, is this simple bilateral external rotation with scapular retraction. So 2 hand positions, you can start either just palm up or thumbs up. I prefer palm up. So with this, it's imperative, oh, that's a good word there. It's super important that you use those scapular retractors. So that's going to be a down and back action, as if you're trying to pull your shoulder blades into your back pockets, almost like creating an X through those shoulder blades. Okay, your chest might stick up a little bit with it, that's totally fine. So we go through, we draw those shoulder blades back and down, and we rotate out and away. Now, again, getting those shoulder blades back and down is the crucial part, because if we don't do that, all the load when we start climbing is going to go right to those external rotators, which are not very strong and are constantly used and a lot of times abused in climbing. So, palms up, squeeze the shoulder blades back, rotate out. Now I suggest with like all these warm-up exercises, high rep, like low resistance, so you're not straining, so you can get through like 12 to 14 reps of this to get the muscles nice and active. Now, if that's the only one you can do, you know, fair. But there's other scapular retractor muscles that we need to work.
I see a day to see a job is what it made me.
So when we keep our arms down low, we get more of the rhomboids, which most of you are familiar with. But as we come up to a higher position, we then get our middle trapezius more active with our external rotators. So we keep that same position, maybe give yourself a little more slack, and then arms come straight up in front of you, and you basically just make yourself into a T. So you're pulling those shoulder blades together as you go through this nice motion. Now you should not feel this at the top of your shoulders. This needs to be felt in the middle of the back. Okay, so we get through that little human T there, or what we call horizontal abduction. And then we go even higher. So again, as we get higher, as we get through these climbing positions, we need the shoulder to be working together. These external rotators, the rotator cuff muscles, need to be working with the middle of the back. So then we go with, you know, what we call the D2 flexion, or sword from the sheath. So thumb up position, we reach down towards that pocket, and then we rotate back and down. Now, a lot of you are going to get compensation as you do this in the top of your shoulder. That's because the targeted muscle here, the lower trapezius, is too weak.
Mercy is for the weak.
So if you have difficulty with this, you may not be progressing at this rate yet, but it's also a good sign that, hey, like maybe there's actually something wrong with my shoulders where I'm not getting that active. Now, why is that an important exercise? Where do we spend a lot of time climbing? Out in this extended position. If you're not using that lower trap muscle, you're not getting good scapular mechanics to help make sure you don't get an injury in the future.
Whoa, they ain't never seen nothing like this before.
All right, so this last one, this is the band angel. So it's basically, think about if you've been to the snow and you make a snow angel, this is a dynamic exercise. So we're gonna actually change muscle groups as we go through it. So as we pull our arms back, we get that scapular retraction. This is more the rhomboid being active, so that's one of those muscles in the middle of your back. And then as we start to come up, we get more middle trap. And as we get even higher, that transitions to our lower trap. So we're going through a dynamic exercise where you hit one muscle group to the next, which of course is very important because climbing is a dynamic moving sport. So we want to try and be able to integrate all these. Now, as you get up higher and higher, you'll probably notice it's harder to not cheat and shrug your shoulders up. So if you can only get to about here before you notice that compensation, then that's okay. That's where you're at right now. But over time, as you work on that, you'll be able to get those arms up higher and still feel it in the middle of the back as you go through that motion. So that's that last one, the band angels.
You're supposed to keep your arms totally straight?
Yeah, you want to keep the arms straight as you go through it, because if you kind of cheat out here, you're going to end up rotating back. And we want to keep those arms rotated backwards, because that way we're, again, engaging those external rotators. So that way it emulates more climbing, and we're then, again, working those external rotators in concert with those scapular retractors.
Nate Rose, oh yeah, I'm finna pop, yeah, baby, hit the...
So the other most important part about warming up is actually incorporating what you're doing into your climbing. So you want to start with something super easy, big handles on it, nothing that you are distracted by what your fingers are doing. That way you can focus on getting the shoulders properly activated and moving right. So when you go through your movements, you want everything to be slow and purposeful and almost take a few seconds on each movement. So I'm going to start with my shoulder blades pulled back, and as I go through this next move, I'm going to get my feet where I want them, but you'll notice that movement, the engagement of the shoulder as I go up, and try and reach even further. Get your feet where you want it. Now before I make that next move, I pull my shoulder blade back together as I go and come into that next position. Come back up to the next, let go again, pull that shoulder back, keeping that proper engagement the entire time. So you want something really easy that you can work on and hold each move for a few seconds before you try and come off of it to keep that proper engagement. Now coming down is just as important too, because then you can again work on going from this low scapular retractor position to higher. So we get our foot and we can come down. Same thing here. So I pull myself in, that shoulder blade is engaged, and then I come down, keeping that good shoulder motion before I go to the next. Shoulders engaged, lower back down. So that way you can really focus on keeping those shoulders active as you go through those warm-ups, pausing on each hold, making sure your feet are where you want them, making sure that shoulder blade is down and engaged. Because if you warm everything up, but then you don't apply it to what you're trying to do, your body doesn't build that connection, and that's what we're looking for. So what's the harm if you don't do any of these warm-ups? The big thing is overloading those external rotators, because as you go through these different climbing positions, you're going to be putting a lot of strain and stress on the external rotators of the shoulder. By doing this warm-up, you're increasing the likelihood that you do those two muscle groups in concert, so you're essentially sharing the load and the forces of climbing. That way you don't get issues or tears of the infraspinatus, supraspinatus, these rotator cuff muscles that then set you further back. You'll also decrease that kind of weird aching arm pain that you get at the end of the day, because again, you're basically using two muscle groups when you were using one. So again, the mecca for the warm-up is just that simple rotation of the arms while drawing the shoulder blades back and down. And if you want to go through those other ones as well to really be strong with the shoulders, that's great. It's going to keep you stronger and safer for climbing. But at least do something to get those shoulder blades and the rotator cuff muscles working together. Shoulder lean, shoulder lean. Video's done. Okay. Yeah. That would be kind of fun. Should I just keep this in my back pocket? You know, I love warming up. Okay, I gotta make this one fun.
Yeah, don't be boring like all the other ones.
Hey, there was one where I think I was excited. That was pretty good. Yeah. I mean, I was excited here, you know. Dude, seriously, yeah. What are the rhomboids? Gosh, this is just, I might have to use that other band. I'm not that strong, bro. God, that's so hard. Oh, so I just go for it? Could you hear it?
Yeah.
Oh, gross. The second half was kind of meh. Yeah, let me just, oh, my back feels good now.